All right, Vikings fans, buckle up. Darren and I are here to put the spin out of whatever all that happened this week. Another mini camp is in the books, and surprise, surprise, Kyler Murray's already seems to be whining about not getting enough first-team reps. Shocking, I know. Meanwhile, Nolan Teasley's out there playing cleanup crew, firing veterans left and right and turning the front office into his own personal Seahawks annex. And don't get me started on the offensive line. The rest days for Darrisaw, rest days, we only had 3-day event. Contract drama for Brian O'Neill and a new hard-ass coach who may or may not start a mutiny. We'll see. Same old Vikings chaos, brand new excuses. Let's talk about it next on Two Old Bloggers. Let's rock. Vikings First and SKOL presents This Week in Vikings Land with Darren and Dave, your two old bloggers. Hey everybody, it's Dave here, Darren over there. I want to welcome into the house. We've got Biggs, we've got my 2 cents worth. We have Doc Proto just showed up, and Chuck is here as well. Norsevius, of course, our senior moderator, and we have, who else have I missed? Peter's here as well. Welcome to the show, you all, and glad you can show up on this Sunday afternoon when there's no basketball. And I don't think there's hardly anything on except for some wrestling coming on tonight, but we'll see.
Well, wait a minute. The World Cup started on Wednesday, so there's World Cup stuff on.
Is that a sport?
Well, hey, you might be a soccer fan soon. US won 4-1 in their first game. Looked pretty darn good, too, in doing it as well.
I saw that, that they won. I didn't watch the game, but I saw that they won. How are things in the Great White North?
Sunny, warm, not too bad, Dave. Ready to talk Vikings football.
All right. And as you can see, I titled this Murray Whines, ? And I've already got some feedback. No, he didn't whine. He didn't whine like a little girl or a little kid going, hey. He didn't do that. But we'll get into it. Next on Team 1. Delton, that is a fantastic question. Delton asks, why is Brian O'Neill's contract in dispute? That's laughable. Cashman and Ginker in contract years as well. You are 100% correct. Like I said, that's a fantastic question. All right. We're going to start off with Minicamp 2026. And who better to represent it than the centerfold that is Will Reichard, the best player on the team.
Who we're not going to talk about in minicamp, or at least I'm not anyway. We don't have to talk about him because he's awesome and he makes all his kicks. So what's there to say?
And the sky is blue and the grass is green. Yep.
But we are going to talk about quarterbacks, of course, because you got to talk about quarterbacks if you're talking about the Minnesota Vikings and minicamp itself, Dave. The Vikings hold it, and they are, and so. This one, media had access all 3 days, so we get a bit more fulsome coverage on the Vikings and what's going on and what people are seeing compared to the OTAs, which the media only got to see one of the 3 days. So, fans are want to know what's going on, what have we learned? And the big thing we learned is that the quarterback competition is still open, and it's going to it's going to stretch into training camp. Kevin O'Connell made that clear in his media availability. He hasn't made a decision yet, and they're going to let it ride into training camp. And so you got a bit of reporting about JJ McCarthy and how he looked, and Kyler Murray how he looked. Murray seemed to struggle maybe a little bit. There was a couple of interceptions in one of the day sessions, but it's minicamp, right? But still, I think this time around, Dave, both quarterbacks got interviewed, and this time it was Murray whose comments caught more of the attention of everybody, including fans, than McCarthy did. And McCarthy this time around seemed to be more, I don't know whether he got coached up by the media people, but he seemed much more at ease and much more like himself, more open, more friendly than he was a couple of weeks ago when he got talked to OTAs and he made the two people in the classroom comment and other stuff. This time Murray was in there, and he talked about how you're getting to the whining part now, but he talked about how he got asked about challenges that he's encountering, and he said, well, I just feel like I'm not getting enough reps, first team reps. I'm not used to that. I'm used to getting all the first team reps as a quarterback, and he felt that is impacting him negatively in picking up the Vikings offense, because that's something he's not used to doing. He's been a starter everywhere he's been since high school, college, and with the Arizona Cardinals. And so there you have it, Dave. Now the comment he made it, he got asked a question, straight out, what are the challenges that you're facing? And he answered it honestly. Still, was this a bit of a passive aggressive complaint by Murray? Or as you put it when you talked to me online, was he whining a bit already? And is that a good sign, considering Murray signed here? I'm sure it was made clear to him that, hey, we're not giving you the job right now. You're gonna battle it out with JJ McCarthy. So if he's now seems to be chafing a little bit at the fact that he has not been named the starter, that's a little bit of concern for me, I guess, because again, he's had leadership questions that have followed him in Arizona, and those sorts of things, and so a bit of a concern there. Again, he got asked a question, he answered it honestly, same as JJ McCarthy did 2 weeks ago. Are we making too much of it? Maybe, but I think it's something that needs to be talked about and analyzed a little bit. And I'm just fine, Dave, with this quarterback competition not being decided right now. Maybe it seems quite clear that Kevin O'Connell has not seen enough from either McCarthy or Murray to end the quarterback competition now. And O'Connell talked about how he wants to see how both McCarthy and Murray handle challenging situations. And so, if Murray's not getting the full first quarterback reps, it's up to him to make the best of that situation and make every rep that he does get as good as he can make it. And because, not getting full-time reps in a mini camp is quite a bit different than, there's all kinds of, not the greatest situations that you face on the field as a quarterback, and quarterbacks are expected to overcome that. So, I think that this is a little bit of a challenge where he's not being handed the job. That's okay. And it's up to him to rise above that and clearly establish that he is the better quarterback than JJ McCarthy and everybody else on that roster. But I also think for O'Connell, I do think that the quarterback competition, Dave, I think you would probably agree, is that I hope it doesn't drag on well into training camp. I hope they make a decision. Somebody emerges as the clear favorite, fairly early on training camp, because I think at some point in time, you have to have a number one guy working with the number one offense all the time to get you ready for the season opener in Green Bay and beyond. And so I'm hoping that this gets resolved fairly quickly in training camp, but as for now, I'm fine with it. And I think Kyler Murray and JJ McCarthy should be as well. They've just got to show the coaching staff that that they deserve the job. And for Kevin O'Connell, who said at the beginning, after Kyler Murray had gotten acquired, that there was going to be a quarterback competition, I don't know if the veterans, if he was somehow perceived to be holding a sham competition, I don't think that would sit very well with the veterans on the team, particularly some like Brian O'Neill, who have said they really like JJ McCarthy and think that he can be a good starting quarterback in the NFL. So if you're going to call it a quarterback competition and you want to keep your credibility as a coach, you've got to make it a legitimate quarterback competition. And so, there's a part of something that Kevin O'Connell has to see this through. So that's what we get. We'll see where it goes, but training camp is going to continue to be interesting, Dave.
Yes, it is. It
On the
absolutely, positively is going to be interesting. And I hope the best guy wins.
Yes.
I wrote a whole piece that I didn't put
Vikings.
out. That I want what's best for the Vikings. I want us to win a Super Bowl, right? Before I die. I would sooner rather than later like to start winning Super Bowls. I'd like to win a whole bunch of them so I could go to heaven happy. But we will see. Now, out of the two, why it keyed off the comment that he was whining, he's not getting all the reps. Well, I disagree with that. He is getting all the reps. He's just not getting all of them with the ones. He and JJ McCarthy are alternating between the ones and the twos. So they're getting equal amounts of reps. It's competition, 50-50. Let's go for it, right? What the difference is, and the only difference is, with the ones, you're dealing with the starters, right? Mm-hmm. The legitimate starters. You got a higher level of support.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it be Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, the old line, whoever it is, you got a higher level of support. But during OTAs and minicamps, and the minicamp, what is the purpose of those? Kevin O'Connell calls them the learning period, mm-hmm. right? They're putting in the offense on the offensive side, defense on the defensive side. And it's the learning that he's required to do. Now he's whining about not getting time 100% of the time with the ones because he's always been used to it. He did it in college. He did it in high school. He did it, in Arizona. Why isn't he not here? Well, he's got to learn. Now, it's learning the offense, not just throwing to Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. It's learning how the offense works, how people go in motion, how to read it, how to call it, the whole works. And you can do that with the twos as well because KOC doesn't change the offense. It's the same offense. So he's getting all the reps. And to me, when he talked about, I'm not getting enough, it sounded to me, my ears sounded like that's a whine. It's a complaint. It's a grumble. Well, everybody hammered JJ McCarthy after he sits on one side of the classroom, I sit on the other remark. Well, that was a statement of how he felt about it. Kyler Murray said, I'm not getting enough reps with the ones. And that was how he felt. There's nothing wrong with what he said or how he said it. For both of them. It's a competition. Whether it's Kyler Murray's favored by like 90% to win it, and I agree that's the case. But it's still a competition. So do competitions start with the presumed starter, 10 yards from the finish line, and then everybody else 90 yards back from that? No, they start even. And in this case, they've started even. Now, this last week, Kyler had a bad week. JJ's was better. We wonder if the momentum's changing. Or we wonder if they're just hyping up JJ for trade. Don't know. Did KOC tell Kyler he's going to be the starter when we signed him? And now Kyler feels a little bit disgruntled with KOC, possibly. Thank you, Biggs. Now I lost my place. Biggs talking about KOC, and I know. He says, Dave, we don't know that KOC said it. I know we don't. And that's the problem. Is this a real competition or is it a sham? I heard that this week too. From a very dialed in podcaster. And if it's a sham, then why is KOC coach? It shouldn't be a sham. I don't think it is a sham. I think it's real. There's a competition going on, and we want the best guy to win. Period. And KOC get out of the way. Let him win. It was Paul Allen and Alec Lewis on K-Fan. Alec Lewis had talked to Dimitrov. And he said, if this was a sham, Kyler Murray would have been fed plays to make him look good. Obviously, that's not the case. They're both getting equal amounts of, here's a play you're good at, here's a play you're bad at. Learn them both. Why? Because it's the offense. You got to learn both. So I'm hoping, no matter what, I ride purple. I want us to win the Super Bowl. And whichever quarterback turns out to win this thing is great. Now, I was listening to Brevsky earlier, and he wants JJ McCarthy. Why? Because if JJ beats Kyler Murray, that means JJ is better, has done what he needs to do, and is advanced. And if he's better, that's better for the Vikings. Plus, it gives us longer-term benefit. We will see how this turns out. Now, as far as going into training camp, it's going to be fun to watch. Now, I know people are tired of hearing, oh, Dave, I'm tired of hearing about the quarterback competition. Folks, we got 6 weeks till training camp, and it's going to be probably nonstop between now and then. There's going to be no news unless something bad happens and somebody gets arrested or run over by a car. God forbid that doesn't happen again. But we'll see. Hopefully, Dalton says Big KOC the next day told the media that Kyler Murray talked prior to length about reps before Kyler Murray was brought into the press. Yes, he did. He said because Kyler Murray had gone to him and complained, and he said, no, you gotta buckle up, Bubba. You know, you've got to compete. Now, is that the problem? Kyler Murray doesn't like competing. We've heard all about that as well. Is he having a hard time learning this offense? This offense is difficult. It's hard to learn. Ask Kirk Cousins. Ask Sam Darnold. Now, they're saying, yeah, but he's never done this offense. And JJ McCarthy's been in it. This is just going in his third year. Yeah. But JJ McCarthy's only got 10 games played, whereas Kyler Murray's got 7 years worth. Kyler Murray should have the advantage, being the vet, to be able to pick it up. He's picked up 2 offenses before. Why not a third? I think it's a no kidding competition. So let it play out. And it provides great content, by the way.
It does. It certainly does. Beyond the quarterback competition stuff, Dave, which is going to continue to be the focus of everybody who talks about the Vikings or covers it. When it comes to the mini camps and OTAs, again, we all want news about how players are looking and what kind of schemes are the Vikings running? Are players in different positions than they were last year, or doing different things than they were last year? But, I really am starting to get very skeptical about the value that you can glean from that. But, because particularly with the mini camps, what else did we learn this week? I'm not sure we learned a whole lot from what we read. It's because a lot of these drills are done in sort of not even full speed. Nobody's hitting anybody. It really seems to be a very much, and a lot of these things are done almost on air in a lot of cases, or one-on-ones. It's nobody is getting, as the quarterbacks or anybody, nobody is dealing with like a full-on game speed like it is in the NFL in the first quarter of your season opener. So, in particular, this is more a lot of a wide receiver, quarterbacks showcase these types of camps. What we learn, and like what we really don't learn about is what is the trenches stuff. Like, how's the offensive line and defensive line looking? And so, what do we learn from minicamp other than the quarterback competition is going on? I don't know. Well, training camp might sort some of that out, but even that's not going to, we're not really going to find out until the games really start. But one thing that was beyond the quarterback competitions being full on again, one thing that we learned and is a bit concerning, I think, is that Christian Darrisaw, as you mentioned in the opener, was given a day of rest during a 3-day mini camp. And that's concerning to me because we know all the problems that Christian Darrisaw had last year coming back from his knee injury. We knew he wasn't going to start the season with the team, but when he did, he was in the lineup, out of the lineup, rest days. He'd start a game, he wouldn't finish a game. And it really showed, and he admitted it himself, that his knee injury was very challenging to come back from. It was a serious surgery he had, and his knee just didn't appear to be 100% ready. The concern is that if you're in minicamp and they're already giving him rest days, I think we have to monitor this in training camp. See how many rest days he's getting in training camp. Is he taking part in full practices? What is he doing in practices? I think it's going to be important for us to see what the reporters tell us about that, because if this is going to be the norm for him, is he getting to a situation where that knee issue is a chronic issue and it's never going to be 100% or even close? And you're going to have a situation like the Packers had with David Bakhtiari late in his career where he can't play full seasons anymore. He's having to do maintenance at times that you can't even predict if he's going to be available or not. That's a problem because we know the Vikings have had a real drop off at left tackle, as you would expect when Christian Darrisaw is not in there, and that impacts the run game. It impacts the passing game, and it'd be a real shame if this is a chronic thing and that Darrisaw's maybe his career is even cut short because he just turned 27 like last week or like June 2nd was his birthday. And so this is something to really monitor because it is a worry of mine. And I think a worry, even though Kevin O'Connell said he looked unbelievable a couple of weeks ago, again, if you're giving him rest days, maybe this is all laid out. But again, something that we got to monitor with him because he is such an important part of the offense. Any left tackle that you've got who's a starting left tackle is, I'm a bit worried about Darrisaw and the health of his knee and if it's ever going to be close to 100%.
I agree. Now, David is answering Biggs about changing the playbook, and I did save that. I was going to answer it. Biggs asked, Dave, do we know if KOC has changed the playbook at all? And I'm assuming as a coach, he modifies what, worked last year and didn't work last year and throws things in that, might be a progression in how to design that play or whatever it is. Most coaches do that year to year to year to year. But the basic playbook is still the same. It's still his system. The multitude of looks, the multitude of, plays you can run out of a single look, all that sort of stuff stays the same. And that he's going to hunt for explosives. I do believe once he decides on who's going to be the quarterback this year, he will modify the playbook to maximize whoever that is, whether it be JJ, whether it be Kyler, whether it be Wentz. He did it with Wentz last year. And definitely if it's Brosmer, he's going to do it so he can modify that to get the most out of those players and the most opportunity to win. That's what we want, to win. Right, Darren? You want to win, unlike you yesterday in your tennis tournament.
I wanted to win too. I didn't, but certainly want the Vikings to win all the time, every week, all the time. Go 17-0. Go what? 21. I think. Yeah, 21-0. However many playoff games you'd have to win to get the Super Bowl. I think if you're in the number one seed, you don't have to play 3. Is that how it works these days? Anyway, just
win.
If you're
number one seed, you sit out 1, and then you play 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 3.
Yeah, I think it'd be a divisional
20.
round game, conference, win that one, conference championship, then the big one, the whole enchilada, the Super Bowl.
Well, heck, win the preseason too, go 23-0. I'm all for it. Run the table, baby.
Yeah, no.
Put the Dolphins in their misery, out of their misery. But we'll see.
Yeah.
That ends theme 1, and we'll go to theme 2 next.
Yes.
Theme 2, we're going to be talking about the front office shakeup.
Yes, we are. Because last week's show, when we talked about Nolan Teasley getting hired, we also talked about how Alec Lewis from The Athletic had mentioned that there were several people in the Vikings front office who their contracts were expiring. And so it was a question mark as to who would be returning or staying in the Vikings front office. Particularly when Teasley is new to the Vikings and he's going to want to put his stamp on the Vikings front office. Well, this week, both Lewis and Judd Zulgad reported, I think first out of this, were the first to report that Teasley has started cooking on the front office changes, and we've got 4 people in the front office who have left the Vikings organization. I checked this morning and their names are no longer on the Vikings website, so they're definitely gone. And they've added, and he's made two hires. If you haven't heard already, the people who are gone are
and Demetrius this, I went to go look at the website to grab their pictures. No, they're not there.
And you won't find their bios anymore. The link's broken too. So these guys, even if it shows up on the website, the link's broken. So they've been washed from the Vikings website. But gone are the Demetrius Washington, who was one of the assistant general managers with the Vikings under Kwesi Adofo-Mensah. Also gone is Jamal Stevenson, who was a senior personnel executive with the Vikings. Pat Roberts, who was assistant director of college scouting, is gone. And Sally Clavel, who was a pro scout, is also no longer with the organization.
I had a picture of Sally, but
yeah, good. Because I wasn't sure. I've forgotten what she looked like. But also getting hired, we heard Friday, it came out, I think, was that Teasley has hired Trent Kirshner as who was the vice president for player personnel at the Seahawks. It sounds like Kirchner is going to be an assistant general manager with the Vikings now. And he's also hired Andrew Healy, who was working with the Cleveland Browns as vice president of research and strategy. And Healy's very much an analytics guy, a data guy. So those are the comings and goings from the Vikings front office so far. Once the news came out, Dave, the question a lot of us had was like, well, who's next, right? Because we talked a bit about this, and it wasn't too surprising that Washington left, because Washington and Clavel were Kwesi Adofo-Mensah hires, and Washington was one of Kwesi's right-hand men. We spoke last week that he probably wasn't going to be around too much longer, and he is not. But Jamal Stevenson was a bit of a surprise to me in a way, Dave, because he's been with the Vikings a long time, since 2002. Yeah, 25 years. And Roberts had been around since 2013, so he'd been there a while too. So I think those are significant departures under Teasley, because, particularly what Roberts, I think, with him being assistant director of college scouting, that shows to me that Teasley is certainly looking to shake up the college scouting assessment, and that he feels that they need new voices and new opinions there. With certainly when you look at the Vikings struggles to draft effectively, I think it goes on since 2016 for the most part. And then Jamal Stevenson too. I think, again, with him being gone, being a long time Vikings guy who rose up in the ranks of the front office, I think, again, that shows that Teasley is not content to stick with the status quo with the Vikings front office right now. And so he's bringing in Kirshner and he's bringing in Healy. What a lot of people are wondering is, why is Ryan Grigson still here? What I have read is that Grigson is probably, despite a lot of Vikings fans wanting him gone, that it looks like he's going to stay reportedly with the Vikings in some other role. It doesn't seem that it would be assistant general manager, because They got Kirshner as an assistant general manager who's got the college, the scouting background. And then they got Healy, who's the data analytics, the nerd guy. So you don't really need a third assistant general manager who's also a scouting guy if Kirshner is going to be that. So I think Grigson is going to be given some, executive vice president of whatever if he's staying with the team, and he'll have a personnel role, but it'll be something different than this. Slightly different responsibilities and maybe a little higher up than assistant general manager. I don't think he would take a step down, but who knows? The thing to remember about Grigson, and I forgot about Grigson, is that, because we talked about Teasley bringing in his people, and you're going to look at Seattle and say, well, who is he going to bring over from Seattle? Because that's the only organization that he's worked for. Well, he's brought in Kirshner, but he also, I forgot this, is Grigson worked with the Seattle Seahawks in 2018 and 2019 as a personnel executive. So he worked with Teasley for 2 years. Teasley knows him well. And, if Grigson's staying, and clearly, despite the fact that maybe some of us don't think Grigson is good at his job, Teasley might think he's very good at his job. And that he's a guy that they need to keep around, and he likes him as a football mind. Couple other guys that come to mind as what's their future going to be is, because of the moves with Kirshner and Stevenson going and Pat Roberts going, is that what about Ryan Monens, the director of player personnel? What's his future with the team? Mike Sholatin, the director of college scouting, with the Vikings struggles in drafting in the past few years, what are their roles? What's up with them? There could be a few things going on, Dave. One could be that their contracts still are, the Vikings might be waiting for their contracts to expire and then move them on. Or again, Teasley's still assessing the jobs at how they're doing, because he's only been with the team not even 2 weeks. He's got a lot of stuff on the go. It's going to take a while to assess what's everybody's role, what are they doing, what are the processes that you're using, how well are you using them, all that stuff. That's going to take time. And the other thing is that I think it's not realistic to expect Teasley to change the entire front office, because you replace people, or you get rid of people, you still need somebody else to do that job. So you can't turn over the entire front office. That's going to make Teasley's job, which is already very, very busy, even busier if he has to replace 7 or 8 different people on the front office staff. He's already got 4 that he needed to replace, and it looks like he's brought in 2. But it's still, again, I think that it's going to take some time for the front office to get turned over to the extent that maybe we expected or some people would like to see. And again, for guys like Monens and Sholatin and DeLuca, who was a little bit underneath those, again, Teasley might hold them in very high regard. So, but there is some movement going on. There's still maybe a couple of positions with the Roberts being gone that they need to fill. And maybe he will look at, again, poach the Seattle front office. Jason Barnes, who's the assistant director of college scouting with Seattle, maybe Teasley is going to bring him over and give him a promotion and add him to the staff. We don't know, but interesting times here for Teasley. And again, this just he's got a lot to do, but he is starting to reshape the front office and shake it up a bit. And I think that's needed with the way the Vikings, again, this is not a basket case franchise by any stretch, but there's some things they certainly can do better. And I think drafting college players and having young, promising talent that you can use to replace maybe an aging veteran or a veteran who's too expensive for your tastes, that's something the Vikings have to get better at.
Yep, I agree. It's going to be interesting. Now, I haven't officially heard that they've canceled OTAs this week coming up. I'm assuming they're going to cancel OTAs this week. And if they don't cancel it, it's going to be mostly the rookies type of stuff. But after the final OTAs, whether it was last week or if it's coming up this week and they get canceled, the coaches and most of the staff take vacations. It's the only time they have it to do it. They get like 1 or 2 weeks off to go wherever they need to go, because watch film. Watch film. That's what Zim did he'd watch film on the ranch. But they're going to do that. I think that's when Teasley's going to be in there evaluating personnel even more in depth. He's going to be looking at, all right, what'd you do? looking through your records. What'd you do? He may be calling up a couple people and go, hey, what do you think of this? And that sort of stuff. I expect him, if I was him, that's what I would be doing. But we will find out. And David, we're going to talk about more O-line stuff in the third team.
A little bit. Coach Doug asked me when I'm going to grow a beard. I don't think I'm ever going to grow a beard.
Give it a try. It's great.
Dave, I've never known you with anything but a beard. So
I used to be relatively clean shaven except for a mustache. And that was it. A military, it all went yay far. And that was it. And above the lip and the whole, all that. But it is what it is now.
Yeah.
Interesting. I find it interesting. There was one comment I saw that, why do we react the way we react to what players say? And it's like, or something to that effect. And I was like, well, because it generates news. And we're here to comment on our team. It's what Darren and I do. We've been doing it for over 2.5 decades apiece. Literally since the mid to late 90s, both of us, publicly. And it's
some, maybe they don't, not everybody would agree, but a lot of times we report on it or talk about it because what they said was noteworthy. At least we thought so. Are we sometimes reading stuff into their comments? Yeah, we are because, but I don't know. That's partly how content is created.
Mm-hmm. And Norsefius is at it again. Diana Rossini applied for a job. He's reading. We'll find out.
Oh, okay.
Anyways, what comes after theme 2? But before that, for those that are wondering, I'm drinking Bardstown bourbon. It's a bottled and bond series. Very good.
Just water for me, folks. No vodka in the water bottle. Just water,
out, brother. Vodka, a little tonic water, shot of lemon. Awesome. All right. What comes after theme 2?
Theme 3. Always.
Always. Vikings land.
Ooh. There we go. Yeah, kind of a short segment this week. I got a couple of things to talk about. The one is that this week I was reading a story about the Vikings former offensive line coach Chris Cooper, who has taken over from legendary Eagles offensive line coach Jeff Stoutland. And it was talking about how that story was talking about how he's adjusting to coaching the Eagles offensive line and replacing a legend like Stoutland, and how that's all going, and how his coaching style is different than Stoutland's, and how the offensive line is taking to that. And everything's all hunky-dory apparently with Chris Cooper, but interesting because we know as Vikings fans that, the reason that Cooper is with the Eagles is because the Vikings chose not to bring him back after last season, after what I would say would be fair to say 3 years of pretty underwhelming results by the offensive line in total under Chris Cooper as the offensive line coach. And it got me thinking about the Vikings' current offensive line coach, who is Coach Carter, Keith Carter. And when Carter got hired by the Vikings in the offseason of 2025, we did a segment on it. I don't know if we did a full theme on it, Dave, but I think we probably did, because you just love talking O-line. So that would have been
we did at the time. We did.
Yeah. And talking about his coaching record, and because it was a bit of a controversial hire, I think, because Carter had a reputation as being a real hard-ass coach, really demanding and tough on players. And he hadn't been the most favored coach in some of his previous stops, which particularly the Falcons and the Jets.
He hurt some feelings, yes.
Yeah, he did. He had some players that came out not very complimentary about Coach Carter. So that coaching style, and he got hired as an assistant offensive line coach at the time. Cooper was still the main offensive line coach. And the question was, how would Carter's coaching style jibe with the offensive line and the Vikings in general, which seems a lot different than Cooper, who seems to be more of a positive, player-friendly type of coaching style. That's what I've gotten out of reading about him and his interactions. So two different coaching styles. Well, now Carter is the main guy, and so far, no mutiny on the bounty comments in Minnesota so far about Coach Carter. And I know it's early, but I think Aaron Jones had some complimentary things to say about him this week in his meetings with the media. And we know Jones is one of the nicest guys in the league and one of the most respected guys in the league as well. So if he thinks Carter's a pretty good coach, that's a good indication. But I did feel that, again, the Vikings, a lot of talk about Frank Smith being hired as the assistant head coach, and he's a run game guru and how he's going to transform the Vikings run game in particular. But I don't think we've talked very much, or there's been much focus on Keith Carter's role in getting the Vikings run game to where we would like it to be, but also the overall Vikings offensive line, because again, it's been an offensive line that hasn't opened up near enough daylight a lot of times for the running game. I don't think it's been very physical and won at the line of scrimmage enough. And certainly they've been partly responsible for giving up gobs and gobs of quarterback sacks during Kevin O'Connell's 4 years as the Vikings head coach. So, Carter is going in his job, even though he's not an offensive coordinator, he's in a very important position with the offensive line. And, he's got to make things work with this wide zone scheme that Frank Smith is bringing in. But I think that Carter, he's got a number of questions that he's got to answer this offseason. The one is, again, when you look at the Vikings and the offensive line, can he get more out of Will Fries than what Chris Cooper got last year and get him to play up to his contract? Can he turn Blake Brandel into a reliable, solid NFL center that we don't have to protect and who isn't a liability? That's another question he's got to ask. Can he turn, get Donovan Jackson to a next level, hopefully an all-pro level, after, I think, a pretty promising rookie season for Donovan Jackson? And again, the whole wide zone thing, can he make that, the whole offensive line, run that and execute that to perfection so we have a really effective running game? And also as well, can he get that offensive line to hold up well enough when we know that the KOC's offensive philosophy and the way he runs plays tends to have the quarterback hold on to the ball a bit longer than a lot of NFL offenses do. So I think if Keith Carter, whether you love him or hate him, if he can get positive answers to a lot of those questions, then I think the Vikings offensive line is going to be vastly improved compared to the past 3-4 years that we've had under Kevin O'Connell, and Keith Carter will have a positive impact on that offensive line and get it to that top 10 level that we've been crying for here in Minnesota when it comes to offensive line play for a long, long time.
Yes, I agree. It's going to be interesting. Now Keith Carter was selected as an all-pro or Pro Bowl coach over some of the stuff he's done in the past. He knows how to run an offensive line room. But yes, there was times when he hurt players' feelings and they didn't like him. He's hardcore, very much like.
Yeah, so he's kind of in the Tony Sperano kind of.
Yeah. And when he came here, one thing we heard over last year or the year before is that Chris Cooper was teaching him how to better get along and sort of mellowing him out a bit. Okay, cool. People can grow. Maybe he's learning how to players a little bit better. But what I've heard from sideline reports, i.e. sideline at OTAs and minicamps, when you get Channel 5 or whoever out there asking players stuff, they love this, loving him. And they're loving what they're doing. And the wide zone stuff that Smith has put in, they're doing 30-yard sprints around the side and boom. And I can't wait to see them put the pads on and start hitting people. Sigh.
You're going to have to wait a little bit longer, Dave.
I know. And it's not even the first few days of training camp either. Mm-hmm. Sigh. Anyways. But from what I'm gathering, the O-line is really gelling as a group, and they love what's happening this year. And if they're happy, you want them to be happy. You want them to be able to especially run the ball and pancake people, to be able to pass block efficiently, keep that quarterback upright, and which no matter which quarterback it is. And that is a good thing. You've got to have your round bellies in sync and playing well to go far and to be a very good offense. And by very good, I mean better than top 10, more like top 5. Now, they got to stay healthy.
Yes.
We'll see. Everything keys on them staying healthy. As we saw last year or the year before when Darrisaw went down, and last year when he's playing with his bum knee, everybody's got to stay healthy. But we'll see.
And it's tough at the offensive line. Like I feel like that's the position where guys get banged up the most. I have no data to prove that, but it's just every week there's offensive linemen on the injury report and guys who are questionable, or you just don't know if they're going to play or not. Like we know that Ryan Kelly missed all the games with concussions. Donovan Jackson missed a few games with a wrist injury. With Darrisaw's issues, Will Fries was coming back from an injury and didn't really look himself until midway.
Pulled pec muscles, pulled biceps. There's the whole knees and ankles and stuff. And to think they're only going about a yard, ish before they get in the reach contact. But that's what happens when you're 300 pounds going against a 300-pounder. Yeah. You guys are going at it mano a mano, and I'm going to kick your butt. And I loved it. I played it, and that's my attitude, and it's absolutely great. So, best spot in sports. But we'll see. Now, but to continue with the O-line, we're going to talk about Brian O'Neill.
Yeah, wow. So Delton might be getting fired up again.
Why are we only picking up Brian O'Neill, not Cashman and Van Ginkel? Yes.
Well, I think one reason is that O'Neill's a lifetime Viking, and Blake Cashman and Andrew Van Ginkel are not. That could be part of it. There's a sentimental aspect to this, because O'Neill's been a Viking since 2018 and a pretty good one. But wanted to talk about his future because that has been a talking point, whether you think it should be or not. Sorry about this, Delton. But he's in the final year of his 5-year deal. And the questions during the whole offseason, or part of the questions, have been, what are the Vikings going to do with Brian O'Neill? Are they going to sign him an extension or not? This week, Brian O'Neill got asked about it, and he made it clear he wants to retire as a Viking. And I'm sure that the Vikings would, if everything was perfect and lined up, that they'd want Brian O'Neill to retire as a Viking too, because he has been a very good player for them for a long time. He's respected, he's a voice of reason in the Vikings clubhouse when good times are bad, I find. And he's one of the most respected leaders on their team, voted team captain multiple times now. So, but there's always the economics that come into this, right, Dave, especially for a guy who reaches a certain age. And Brian O'Neill will turn 31 in September, I believe. Yeah. And right now he's, again, last year of his deal, but you got Christian Darrisaw. When you just look at him at left tackle, salary cap hit's going to be $27.9 million this year, in 2027. And then in 2028, it goes up even a little bit more. It'll be $34 million. Well, if you're going to sign Brian O'Neill to extension, it might be structured now. It might be structured in a way where his cap hit in 2027 isn't too bad, but eventually the bill comes due, right? And really good left tackles, and I think Brian O'Neill fits that bill. They're getting contracts now, what, 25 million annual average value or more. So the question becomes, can you afford to have O'Neill making salary cap hit of 25 million or thereabouts, and Darrisaw is eating up, about 34 million.
Yeah, or whatever it is.
That's a tough thing to balance. The Vikings are going to have to make choices there or at some other positions as to who they can pick. And then Darrisaw's health also factors into this and makes the decision, because you're not sure how healthy is he? How healthy is he going to be? You don't want to be having to replace a left tackle and a right tackle at the same time. But I feel the Vikings have made some moves this offseason to kind of pave the way from potentially moving on from Brian O'Neill if they feel the economics don't work. They signed Ryan Vandermark to that offer sheet that the Bills did not match. Now, it's only a 1-year deal, and we viewed Vandermark as a swing tackle, a backup, the first guy that goes in if your right or left tackle gets hurt. But the fact that they signed him to an offer sheet for more than he normally would have signed for, it tells me the Vikings feel that there's potential there for him to be maybe a bit more than that. And I think they're going to see how things go this year with Vandermark and maybe try to extend him beyond that if he shows that he's worth it. The other thing is, of course, they drafted Caleb Tiernan from Northwestern in the 3rd round. And Tiernan played left tackle, and he played it pretty well from what I understand at Northwestern, but the draft pundits feel that, because I think it's mostly because of his arm length, that they feel that he's better suited to be a right tackle. So again, the Vikings, I think, have made a couple of moves here depth-wise where they give themselves some options if O'Neill gets too pricey for them, particularly with Tiernan, if they like what they see from him in training camp and during the season, that he might be the guy who's your right tackle in 2027 if you don't extend Brian O'Neill and let him test the market.
It's possible. We'll find out. But I think Brian O'Neill gets a few-year extension and he's fine, because good O-linemen, tackles, guards, centers, they can go into their mid-30s and be fine. And be Pro Bowl level fine.
Yes, Trent Williams would be one example, right? Yep. He's 38 and he's still all world. Now
it's about staying healthy, making it worth it, and then the whole, how much do you pay 2 Pro Bowl level tackles, and what are you giving up somewhere else so you can afford them?
And the one thing that I do see in comment sections from some people, anyway, I'm not saying it's majority, and it does surprise me, is that there is a segment of Vikings fans out there who feel that Brian O'Neill is no good anymore, that he's lost it, like he's way on the downward slope of his career. And I just don't see it. If you look, the Pro Football Focus grades say that he's still a very good player. They've been pretty consistent. He's always in the mid 70s or thereabout at his worst. When I watch games, and I'm not an offensive line aficionado, but when I watch games, I don't see him being responsible for a whole lot of sacks or pressures. So to the analytics side of thing and the naked eye side of thing, Brian O'Neill still seems like a pretty darn good player to me, and one that if you can keep him, you keep him, because we know it's really tough to find tackles, and you've got to invest premium draft capital in finding the real good ones. Like, you got to pick him in the first round, pretty much, or sometime early in the second, like Brian O'Neill's case, to have a really good shot at finding a guy who's capable and can hold up at the NFL level. Right.
It's even unusual finding them in the second that they get to Pro Bowl level player. So
yeah. Like I said, how many the Vikings used to pick take a flyer in a 6th round or a 7th rounder so many times.
Did it with centers all the time.
Under Rick Spielman, and a lot of times they didn't even end up making the team. So if that's your strategy to find a premium tackle, is wait until later in the draft, you can forget it. You're not going to find it.
Yep, absolutely. It's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out, and we got, like I said, 6 weeks between now and training camp to talk about it.
We do. Hopefully in those 6 weeks, the we don't get to talk about off the field stuff from anybody.
Right. No. Hopefully it's good off the field stuff.
Yep, that's right.
We will find out, because we don't want to go down to who's on the Mount Rushmore of whatever. I don't find that entertaining. But there'll be some news, and we'll be here, guaranteed, whether it be us on Two Old Bloggers or Tyler over on the Real Forno Show. We're going to be producing stuff. So keep at it with us. We're not leaving you.
Nope. We'll be here every week talking about something Vikings related.
Mm-hmm. So, any last words, everybody?
No, sir. I'm done. Thanks, everybody, for showing up, though.
Yes, I want to thank everybody that did show up today. You guys have been great. Love to see you there. And we will catch you tomorrow night on the Real Forno Show. And until then, stay safe, stay sane, eat good food, and enjoy good friendship. And what do we say, buddy?
We say SKOL Vikings. Dave says don't bother watching the World Cup because it's not a real sport.
SKOL Vikings. Like, subscribe, and ring the bell, and rate us on your favorite podcast aggregator. Darren and Dave, thank you for watching this episode of Two Old Bloggers. We look forward to seeing you on every show on the new Vikings First and SKOL. You can find our podcasts as part of the Fans First Sports Network. Sports takes for the fan, from the fan. SKOL, everybody!